Good evening and welcome to Wanderings and Wool Gathering, episode 112. Tonight we are reviewing Kendrick Lamar's new record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. This album is huge and I cannot wait to talk about it. Also, we're going to be choosing 3 songs to listen to while driving. So hopefully you guys will chime in with some songs as well as we talk about ours. And then at the end here, we're going to discuss issue number 5 of Sandman from Neil Gaiman. If you like what you hear tonight, subscribe and leave a comment. And feel free to share with your friends because the more the merrier. We'd like more people. Joining me tonight is none other than JPP.
Easy listening sounds for the hard of hearing. It's JPP.
Greetings.
Can only people who are hard of hearing hear you?
No, other people can, but they just have to turn the volume down a little bit.
Will it sound rough? Because it's easy listening for.
It will sound easier.
Okay. I wonder what metalheads think. We'll ask one.
Step inside into his mind. It's boy band time. It's
Metalhead Mundy.
Hey, all.
And there he is.
I would not say it's the easiest of listening, but I would say maybe mid-grade, mid-level listening.
It's the Metamucil of music. Is that what you're saying?
That's a pretty rough grade.
Oh, but it keeps you regular, so
Yeah.
That's important at our age.
I will write that down. I appreciate the feedback, and I'll take that to consideration there.
I'm going to create this banner. Let's see. JPP music is like Metamucil.
It's in print. It's
there
on
we
the internet.
go.
It is forever.
And there we have it.
I'm just glad you spelled Metamucil right.
Oh, shut your face.
Oh, man. I remember when I was a kid walking in my grandma's kitchen every evening, and she'd be stirring up a glass of orange stuff. I'm like, what is that?
Doesn't taste like Tang.
Yeah,
Pray you never have to find out, kid.
So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Eat
You guys
your
ready for
veggies,
our,
kid.
you guys ready for our challenge?
I am.
Very.
You think our listeners are ready for the challenge? Because
I hope.
Let's hope so.
we have one of these up for grabs tonight if people want to participate and share some songs with us.
Well, let's hope they do.
Let's do. We're speaking to you, Andy. We expect you on the show tonight. So, JPP, you have the challenge. Why don't you remind us all?
I said because it's getting warm out finally, and one of the fun things to do is to kind of hit the road, and while doing so with the windows down or the top down if you have a convertible, is to jam on some of your favorite tunes. And so I asked you guys to come up with 3 of your favorite road tunes.
Very good. Do either of you have a car with a top that comes down?
Nope.
No.
I have a sunroof.
Same.
Yeah, my mom had a convertible for a long time, and yeah, I would go ride with her in that every once in a while and have to listen to her music, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We have a Ford Escape, and it has the sunroof. It's a big one, like the glass is big, but it only opens like half of that. So
that way you can't escape.
I actually got a couple weeks ago, I got burnt right here from having
the roof.
Yes.
That's awesome.
From having it open.
Yeah, I would imagine this challenge would be more fun if you had a convertible.
True.
Yeah.
Or a motorcycle. You know, they have some hi-fi systems on those these days.
They do. And the
So
speakers
loud,
in the helmets.
man.
Yeah, and it's so funny to hear them drive by because you hear the song and it gets a little...
Yeah, the Doppler effect on the song.
Exactly.
I wonder if the helmets have noise cancellation in them.
That's a good question. That would be kind of a scary situation, though. You have to kind of keep your surroundings at bay.
It's like people who drive and wear headphones at the same time. I would imagine you don't hear sirens, and probably not a good idea. So we are not recommending that, kids. Don't do that.
I will tell a quick story. Before we get started, I'll tell a quick story. There was a gentleman I saw. I have no idea who he was. I was on my way back to campus from Kokomo to Ball State, and I was in the lovely town of Fairmount at the 4-way stop. And whoever this young man was definitely into his road tunes, because as he started to go, I see him just kind of thrashing about. So it was definitely something heavy, but he was borderline moshing as he was driving, and I thought, oh, Jesus, he's going to wreck soon.
Nice.
Well, yeah. The
Maybe
brightest people aren't always on the road, so.
Maybe a Wayne's World fan.
Something.
All right. Well, let's go, I suppose. And then, Paul, you'll go last because it's your challenge.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'll lead off. And my number 1 song is Radar Love, Golden Earring.
Nice.
Remember loving that when I was young, and it was about the time we were learning to drive and all that. So cruising the strip, so to speak. So it's kind of a driving song. Not really the open road for me back then, but I think it would be tasty on the open road today.
Absolutely.
All right, Mundy.
I don't know. I feel like I'm a little partial to the White Lion cover of that, but no, I'm kidding. I totally like the original better. But it is a good cover. It's a great cover.
Mm-hmm.
But since you threw them out, I was going to go with this one second. But since you threw Golden Earring out there, I mean, I thought about. I mean, Radar Love comes to mind, of course, because. You know, it's just a road song, and it's a great one. Yeah. It's a longer song, so you get your jam in. But I went with Golden Earring.
You don't say.
Golden Earring.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone.
I mean, that bass. Oh.
Hello.
Oh, there you guys are. Are we back now?
Yes, you're back.
Yes.
I didn't hear anything you guys said after I said my song.
We were just waiting for you.
Yep.
So we heard Twilight Zone. So
yeah. Twilight Zone, yes. The bass line of that alone is a I mean, absolutely classic. It's just a great song, and it's a lot of kind of extended jam music parts in that one. I think it's just a really, really great song to cruise to.
Agreed. Yeah, both of those are. Now, Paul, do you have a Golden Earring song on your list?
I do not.
Dang it.
Some of these are kind of based off of some fond memories. In fact, the day we had our graduation ceremony, I was working at Karma Records right before graduation, which was a nice change of pace considering the fast food place. You'd get off work at 11:30 midnight, and it's definitely like Metamucil back in my day. So, close at 9 and all that stuff, and get some good deals on some CDs. Well, I picked up Music in Our Message by Public Enemy, and on my way to the graduation ceremony, I had What Side You On blasting at full blast in the old Sunbird, and that's a great jam.
Yeah.
I love that song. And right before it is Give It Up, and they flow into each other.
Yep.
I listen to that probably at least weekly. And that is actually my favorite Public Enemy album. And those first 3 were like just dynamite. But this one I think has the funkiest grooves. And God, that is a great choice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a good one. I remember the lines, it's like your endo, throw it out the window like the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
some good Flavor Flavisms in there. Yeah,
Flav is on point. This is the best. That record has the best flavor moments. And then what's the title? Kind of power you got? Soul Power.
Yes.
But it's all Flav. Oh my God, that's like he sounds like a grade A rapper on that one. And sometimes he's just the clown, but man, he delivers on this record. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig that one out of the collection and get on the road this week and just let loose again for the hell of it. Yes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to anything you guys said because I still have the bass line from Twilight Zone. But
well,
carry on.
No, we will. Don't worry. Groovy.
Okay, we got some other ones coming in here. Best surprise album I ever bought at Karma was Morphine, Cure for Pain.
Yes.
Let's see what this is. I got to go on. I'm going to pull up Facebook so we can see who these are because for some reason some of these don't show up. But thanks for chiming in. Appreciate that.
Yes.
We figure out who Facebook user is. We will put both of you or just one of you, if it's just one, into the drawing for the shirt.
Yep. Right on.
Yeah, awesome.
Morphine was a great band, and damn shame they had to end early, but that's some of the best heavy saxophone I've ever heard.
Okay, so we're on to round 2.
Yes, sir.
All right. So my round 2 was. Do you have any guess? I haven't picked any Rush for a while.
Yeah, I
So
knew it was going to be something Rush.
I almost did it, but it's named after the damn car, so it had to be. So Red Barchetta.
There you go.
Which, yeah. It was Rob Moss. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rob. You'll be in
What
there.
up,
I have a funny little anecdote about Rush.
Go
So, I saw today. Apparently, it was 1 year ago today that I posted on Facebook that I got yelled at. I know that I married the perfect woman because I got yelled at because I called her and it went through the car and I interrupted her jamming to Tom Sawyer. So,
Oh man,
1 year ago today.
man. But you know what? My daughter, she's kind of a chip off the old block. Sorry, in that I was trying to say in that and block at the same time. But anyway, I've been out in the yard all day.
That's why we keep Paul in the dark on the show.
That's right.
Just
Sorry,
shadows.
folks. That was definitely a tongue tie. Anyway, she's a chip off the old block in that she's very tech savvy. My wife had to go to an appointment the other day, so she was all the way down in Carmel. It's a good 45-minute drive. And while she's enjoying her podcast, all of a sudden it just switches to Rick Astley. And she calls me and she's like, is Eileen on the computer? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, could you tell her to stop? So she got on Spotify and saw that she was listening to on the Spotify account, and then Rick
Your daughter Rick rolled her.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so she's
That's
been doing
awesome.
that at times, and there are some times when it's like, okay, it was funny, but let's stop. But,
Yeah.
I still get a
That's
good chuckle.
good.
That is great. All right, so mine were Radar Love, Red Barchetta. So Mundy, what is your second song?
I got to go with what I'm not sure if I can say this is my absolute favorite Van Halen song, but it's definitely my favorite Van Halen riff, and that would be Panama.
Mm. Yeah.
It's just, man, when that riff kicks in, it's, oh, God, it's so good. So good.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like Eddie knew how to play or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And this was also, I love the story behind the lyrics to this song because it's like somebody was bitching about David Lee Roth writing all these lyrics about just, girls and sex and whatever. And they're like, why don't you just write a song about a car or something? And so he did. And you have Panama.
You guys are on a roll here.
That's interesting.
Some golden earring, car themes. I'm sensing little,
Road tunes, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Serendipity. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now Paul's ready.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. I'm enjoying some grape soda.
Gotta hydrate.
Yeah. Anyway, so when I was in 5th grade, my brother was in the Marine Corps, and he came home on leave for a week and spent a lot of time with me, and it was a great time. We went to go see, I think it was Superman 4 in the movies.
Nice.
And but
it's a
while
good
we
time.
were on the road in his truck, we were listening to Wanted Man by Rat. And full blast, and Rat had some killer bass lines and stuff going on. Guitar parts are wicked as well, and that really turned me on. I mean, I already saw Round and Round as a kid on the videos and everything, and loved that, but that really sold me on Rat back in the day. And
Rat is awesome. They have a lot of good songs that would be good road tunes. I mean, Way Cool Jr. is a great one. That's that little guitar lick that'd be a good road tune. And Round, of course, that's a mega classic.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I never saw
Rat.
them live. Did you guys see them live?
never
I
had the chance.
did.
Were they
I
good?
did much later. I saw them in the early 2000s with Poison, and so it was later. I don't remember who was in or out of the band, but Stephen Piercy was definitely singing. So
Nice.
that's the
Yes,
important
Sean
part.
Rat did have great posters, great artwork, great logo.
Great videos too.
Yeah.
Milton Berle.
Got another Facebook user. This is killing me. I gotta pull my phone up so I can see who's posting, unless these are all the same person. If it's Rob, thank you, Rob. All right, so we're on to round 3.
Round 3, fight.
I stuck on theme because that's what I do, but I did not go like hardcore. So for this one, imagine driving at night under the stars. It's chill, it's mellow, and I chose Drive by the Cars. I love that song. It's so mellow and cool, and just, I mean, are you guys big Cars fans?
Oh, yes.
I love the Cars in the 80s. So this one is perfect song for me on those nights.
Did you ever hear the album they did, like their last album they did that was, gosh, I can't even think of when it was, but I mean, it was
like 2010 or so, I think.
Something like that, yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was. In fact, it was when I first started working in the acoustics realm, and one of my coworkers said, "Hey, the Cars dropped a new album," and we were listening to it in the office. So it wasn't a road jam; it was an office jam.
Yeah.
That whole ending with Rick Ocasek, like leaving her out of the will and all that was such a strange, I don't know, very odd ending to his life, but still love the old school Cars. So
sounds like Sean has a story that I don't know. So Rick Ocasek did Paulina dirty, I guess, when he died. I don't know.
That's what it sounds like. But...
All right, my last one. This is the one, like this spot, like there's so many songs I was struggling with. There's a great song from Overkill, the classic thrash band Overkill, that is called the Mean Green Killing Machine. That would have been a great one. I was talking with my wife Lacey about it, and she mentioned Tom Petty, and I just started laughing because I told her what I said about, somebody has to pick Free Fallin'. And but she said Running Down a Dream. I was like, "Oh, that's a good one." That's
a good one.
But I decided to go with the ultimate road song, Moving Right Along from the Muppets.
Love it.
It's not a show without the Muppets.
No.
Dug-a-dum, dug-a-dum.
That's right. That's good stuff, man. It goes to show that that scene when they're driving and stuff, that was definitely fun. It doesn't work with the River Bottom Nightmare Band. Although that's a jam.
Poor Emmett Otter. He was at odds from the beginning on that one.
Yep.
Look at the birds in the trees. Right.
That is probably the best Christmas movie of all time.
We're not birds. We're a jug band.
Man. If you guys have not watched Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, you have got to do it. It is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's something that there's a handful of movies that are kind of off the traditional cuff, if you will. I would say that's kind of underground for those that are dealing with the classics today, right? So that one always gets busted out, as well as Ziggy's Christmas special. That one is just ridiculous. so fun. He doesn't even say a word, but anyway. All right, you ready for my last choice?
I cannot wait.
Oh, man. Well, I can't either. Anyway, The Bear has to be played by Ron Perlman. That's awesome. So back in high school, there was a time when I was taking a vocational class in TV productions. Rob Moss knows about that all too well because he did the same thing. Shout out to Alice McKellar. Anyway, we
just saw her the other day.
Oh, did you really? Awesome.
Yes.
Nice. We would basically have a break in between for me to go grab lunch and then go to, my primary high school. Sometimes I would take that break and head over to the Kokomo Mall and pop in and see some friends at Disc Jockey and see what's new in the releases and all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, I had no idea that Testament came out with an album and had a killer album cover. It was Low. And I popped it in my vehicle's CD player, and holy cow, it ripped my head off as I'm heading to school. Almost wanted to skip and just listen to the whole album, but, I persevered. And from cover to cover, that album is just fantastic.
All right. So
yes,
I went back and looked on Facebook to make sure I had the names correct. And so Sean and Rob are both entered. We can still enter anybody else the rest of the night, but those two are entered into the T-shirt giveaway.
Nice.
I'm going to pull this back off the screen so it'll get a little bigger.
Quick note on you mentioned the cover of Low. I think it's Low, Demonic, and maybe one or two others. Those were done by Dave McKeon, who did all of the covers for Sandman.
Yes.
Yep. And Frontline Assembly did an album or two for them.
Fear Factory.
Yep.
He did a lot. Oh God, what was the one? I feel like it was Paradise Lost.
Yes.
Is that an industrial thing?
It's kind of a gothic.
Yes, that's it. He did one of those. It looks like a guy with like horns or something.
Yeah, it's like a red album cover, red background.
Yeah.
Sean,
Sorry, I was answering
Sean
Sean.
mentioned anything AC/DC. Yeah, AC/DC has a good, pace to it for driving and easy to crank up the radio and windows down and all that good stuff. You can still hear everything because Angus's Marshall's at 12.
I would say my favorite driving songs from AC/DC are probably Dirty Deeds and Thunderstruck.
Nice.
Yeah, I've heard Thunderstruck a little too much at school. So
No way.
Yeah. We played a lot.
There was a time when we were in school, every single time there was a dance at the school, they played, what was it? You Shook Me All Night Long. Every single time.
Yep. I remember that. We were always wallflowers waiting for songs to mosh to. So, Steve, I got a question for you. Speaking of school and tunes, are kids still using "Time of Your Life" by Green Day for their graduation song, or have they moved on from that?
No. Well, I'm not sure where they would post that song.
Well, I know
things have changed. So
I just know that there was always, at the graduation ceremony, they'd have a song playing with a slideshow of everybody, and so a lot of times Green Day was a top pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense, and it sent Seinfeld off, so that gave it a seal of approval, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Things are just done differently now, so it's a little strange. Yearbooks aren't as big because they want immediate photos, Snapchat, all that kind of stuff. So, we just had our big senior scholars program today and gave out like $600,000. So
nice.
That was fun. Yeah, good times.
I'm going to go apply for a scholarship. I'll be right back.
You actually can. If you want to go back to school, you can apply for the Sellers Scholarship. It is for alumni.
Nice.
We gave out a ton of those today. So
cool.
All right. So are we done here?
We are done.
I think so.
All right. That means next week's challenge. Okay, I gotta give our boys some shout outs here.
Yeah.
At the program. Okay, here we go, Sean. There we go. So next week, Monday, you have the challenge. Are you prepared to issue the challenge right now, or are we waiting?
I am not, because I did not realize it was mine. So if I come up with something before the end of the show, I'll let you know. But right now, cool. I got nothing.
Are you sure it's not the JLI team and with teams?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'll tie in with our Sandman issue this week.
Yes, it will. So okay, so we will come at you later with the challenge for next week. But I guess we're having a quick break here. So on Thursday night, we're actually going to have a couple of comic book, a writer and an artist in. And they've got a book coming out. We're going to talk to them, review the book, and do all of that. So that'll be Thursday night, special episode at 8:30. And then we'll be back on Sunday with Monday's amazing challenge. I can't wait.
I'm sure it'll be awesome.
It is going to be fantastic. You know why? Because if not, the Kokomo Lantern will be upset. And why do we care? Because they are a sponsor of this program, the Kokomo Lantern, a journalistic endeavor focused upon the simple principles of illuminating the good and eliminating the shadows in our local community. Head over to kokomolantern.substack.com to sign up for all of that content. All right. Thank you, Pat, over at Kokomo Lantern.
One last thing. Monday,
Sure.
You mentioned Tom Petty, and it was kind of hard to pick a tune, right? Why don't we just kind of go for a blanket thing and pick the Traveling Wilburys? Get yourself a supergroup out of the deal.
And that's totally on theme.
Yes.
Totally. Okay. Are we ready for our album review?
Album review. Yes,
Ready as we're gonna get.
Well, he says that jokingly, but not really. This album is a behemoth, and it came out Friday. And those of us who have jobs and had to chaperone the prom and run a program today have not a lot of time. So Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers came out, and it is basically a 2-disc or 2-album release with 9 songs on each album. So we got 18 songs, and these are not throwaway fluff songs. I mean, even the ones that are like intros or interludes.
There's one on each album. One of them is less than 2 minutes, and the other one is, I mean, a whole song, really. And
it's not throwaway.
They're still packed.
Yeah. Yes. Some records, you get the interludes. It's just a little small piece of music, and it feels like, and we've called them out, on the show and said, well, this is kind of throwaway for the album. These are not. I mean, these are integral to the record.
No.
So I'm not sure how we want to handle this because it is a lot. How about just some initial impressions, and then we'll dig into a few songs?
I think in retrospect, it should have been a 2-parter because it's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, Steve and I were talking before the show, and I'm like, man, I really could have used a couple more days with this just because there's so much here. And it's like, you know, you listen to it, and if you have it on in the background, there's some good grooves that'll catch your ear and whatever. But I mean, the lyrics are a mile a minute, and you're like, I mean, you have to pay attention or you're not going to catch everything. Yeah. When I sat down to listen to it and I was reading along with the lyrics, man, I got through disc 1 and I'm like, man, I'm tired. Like, I'm wore out. Like, oh my gosh, I had to take a break. It's just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, I mean, it's this record. I feel like I would be comfortable saying this record is an accomplishment. I mean, wow. It's just, there's a lot here to digest.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I feel like it's so introspective, and, you know, when I look at, Public Enemy is my favorite, and they called out a lot of the ills in the world. This record does some of that, but it really is looking inward on a lot of things and how he deals with what's going on, which is I think kind of really has an interesting counterpoint to some of those other ones from the past. But I love it. I feel like he's very honest in this record, and he doesn't come across as somebody who is better than thou, telling you how things are, how they should be. He's really looking at himself as part of this whole thing, which I think is pretty refreshing.
He definitely kind of speaks to his own flaws in several songs, you know? I mean, he doesn't shy away from that stuff, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting, too, because there's elements, and forgive me, because, again, we had a lot to go through. There were just moments like he was having an argument with a woman on one of the tracks, and it's just screaming at each other. So it's
We Cry Together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I was listening to this on the road. How about that? We Cry Together. There was just this. My initial impression essentially was like, this is kind of raw, like this is him kind of showing human nature and, lashing out in anger and just really letting those feelings fly out. And it was nice to hear because there's a lot of production that's out there that gets really polished, you know what I mean? So like the song has got to be catchy and have this full on hook. There's elements of that, but there's just so many elements of just like ripping the chest open and letting it fly.
Yeah. That song specifically, I definitely wanted to talk about because the first time I heard it, I just had the album on and I was doing other stuff. And I just they start arguing and it just escalates and escalates. And they're like, F, 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 F. And I was like, what in the hell am I listening to?
Right.
And then when I sat down with it and really dove into it, I'm like, it's kind of genius. It really is. Like, it's a rough listen. It is a rough listen, but I mean, the way they're portraying their, I guess, characters. I don't know what else to call them. but like it's not fun. This is not a fun song, and it's rough. And they get into it, and they cover a lot. And I'm like, oh man, I mean, it's really just like listening to somebody argue, but it's brilliantly done.
Mm-hmm.
I think
like
the
you're a
cool
fly on the
thing,
wall.
yeah, exactly. You're like, privy to this room where they're having this argument. And the cool thing is that the girl who's on there is an actress, Taylor Page. It's not like she's coming off and she's known for her music. She's actually an actress, and so she acts the part beautifully.
That makes sense, because I mean, that's I almost said, like, this feels like a scene from a movie or something. If they weren't like rhyming and stuff, I'd be like, I mean, that's like watching a movie.
Yeah, and then what's really cool too. Okay, so it opens with that Florence and the Machine opening, and then that piano. It's like just a cool plunky piano that plays below them the whole time as they argue. And then, of course, at the end, it's almost like they tire of the argument and just want to come back together. Like they're so depraved and bad that they almost deserve each other, which was kind of a cool ending to the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it reminds us.
That too is like a movie. I mean, like a movie or a sitcom where they're like arguing and arguing, and they smack each other and then they kiss and they mash their faces together. Okay.
Did you guys get kind of a Eminem Kim vibe from that?
I mean, I see what you're saying. That didn't really come to my mind, but I can definitely see how you could get there.
Yeah, Kim doesn't talk as much in that song as she does in this one, but she does respond a little bit. And with those two being tied together a little bit, doing some stuff together, it just kind of threw me back to that.
Yeah.
So we all agree that's a banger.
Indeed.
Chalk it up.
It's
we cry
hard
together.
To call it a banger. Like, it's impressive, but that is not a track that I would gravitate to and be like, oh, this is my jam.
Right.
You don't play it to your mom. That's for sure.
Oh, that was funny. I told you guys when we were texting earlier, like we went to brunch with my boys today, and they're Kendrick fans, and they were listening to it, and we were talking about it. They said they were listening to that song on their way to brunch. And I was like, I don't know if that's like your go-to car jam.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like in high school when we listened to The Cure because we were mopey and sad or feeling brokenhearted.
We were emo.
You would want to go to when you're like, look, I'm really fed up. I'm going to just go lash out at somebody. Let's get armed and ready to go. No, it's definitely very cool to kind of hear that play out in such a way that I've never heard before. And I'm pretty naive to a lot of the modern hip hop genre and what's going on.
Same.
So I don't know if there are other artists that are doing something comparable, but this one definitely kind of hits a peak for me as very unique.
Yeah, I get turned off by just the trash lyrics bragging about chains or that kind of stuff or cars. That isn't interesting to me. This tackles real feeling, real world problems, those kind of things. So totally gravitating to this. And I don't love his voice. I love the old school awesome rappers. To me, he doesn't have that big booming voice that I really love, but it doesn't matter. What he's saying is so emotional and heartfelt that I just buy in anyway.
And what's interesting is, go ahead, Mundy.
Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, with a lot of the modern rhythms in the vocal styles, there's like that triplet ba, triplet ba, that kind of thing that's going on a lot. That's been very repetitive. He uses that in spots, but he doesn't overdo it. You know what I mean? So I like the fact that there are some songs that you have a hard time kind of grasping the meter, but it just still fits. And, it's like painting this picture where it has a sonic background and it's almost like a monologue in a way. But damn, it works.
Yeah, he switches his flow up a lot. He's really good at finding different rhythms and stuff. And I mean, even within a verse or a song overall, he's really good at switching it up. His voice doesn't. I mean, I don't think I would ever say Kendrick Lamar is like one of my favorite voices, but it didn't really. I mean, it didn't turn me off or anything. It wasn't like, nails on a chalkboard or anything. It's fine. He sounds fine.
Yep. And you guys know me. I'm always digging into the kind of the production aspect. I'm always hearing that. And I really enjoyed the way some of these samples were used, like United in Grief, that kind of break beat rhythm that was going on. It almost reminded me some of the early Ronnie Size and stuff. It was just more of a little simple snippet versus like a complex 16 bar rhythmic interchange. But it was really cool to hear how that was a texture along with piano. So it kind of went hard, kind of laid low, and that kind of stuff. So that was very cool, and I really liked kind of that cyclical loop in Worldwide Steppers. It just had kind of a whoom.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even figure out how to describe it.
Yeah,
but I loved it.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
That was another one. Worldwide Steppers was another one with some challenging lyrics. The first time I heard it, I was like, what are we talking about? And then as I read it, I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't want to say what he said, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But it's just like he said it like 2 or 3 times in a row, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I don't.
Is this the being a white woman?
Yes.
Yeah, what I love about that though is he, that is kind of referencing his ancestors, like being disappointed in him.
Yes.
Which I think is so cool. And then he's really hard on himself in this song when he talks about when he went into the inner city and he gave out food or whatever, and it was what do you call it, death certificates or something like that. But I mean, so he's like looking at what he's done and being very honest about the problems he's called, I guess, being a killer.
That's like I said.
A killer.
The first time I heard it, it was just on, and I was like, what in the hell is this? And then I dove into it, and I was like, okay, I get where we're going here.
I think the harsh tone and the lyrics make those points that much better. I think you could soften them, but you wouldn't have that same point because it made your ears perk up and go, what the hell did he just say? And then you go back and you're like, okay, I get it, So I think in that respect, it's done its job, really.
Yeah.
So, hey, Paul, you had started talking about United in Grief. I had to ask you, the breakdown where that killer drum groove comes in with the piano, was that not amazing?
Yeah. And I probably listened to that track about 3 or 4 times, and I'm still, it's one of those things where you can listen to a song a couple times and really kind of catch the hook and have a good feel for it and predict it the next time you listen to it. I still haven't been able to do that with many of these songs yet, honestly. So, and I love that challenge. That's very cool. So spoiler alert, I'll definitely be listening to this again because I'm it's very cerebral in a lot of ways that I'm trying to figure stuff out. So
I definitely need to go through it some more too, because it's hard to when I had it on in the background, it's like mostly the groove is catching me, and then he'll say something like, what? And then when I sat and listened to it, like I'm trying to follow along with the lyrics. And if I'm doing that, like you can't always concentrate on the music totally. So, and the music is very complex. And I wanted to mention actually United in Grief because I think it's a great leadoff track. I don't know if it so much sets a tone, but it's a really great song. And I love the evolution of the music as you go through the song. Like it kind of builds and there's different layers that come and go, and it just kind of builds on the layers. And oh man, it's really, really good. Really solid.
Yeah. And there are some tunes, speaking of the rhythms and everything, where you hear mostly like the music part of it, and there's not really a full-on beat. You know what I mean? And that's interesting to me too, because there are so many albums that rely on a heavy drum groove, and sometimes it's not even existent, and it doesn't need to be there because everything else kind of falls into place properly, and that was fascinating.
Yeah.
And Mundy, I think you're right about that being a great opening track, but I think it does kind of set the tone because he's talking about, buying a bunch of expensive things, like being able to do that now that he's made it. But then he starts talking about how he's got a therapist. Like he is like the rest of us. He has issues, money does not make you happy. And there seems to be that weird dichotomy in a lot of these songs. So I think it sets this album up pretty well. I like it.
Okay.
For sure.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Any other songs that I wrote lots of stuff for each song. So if you guys want to jump in with a couple of songs you want to talk about.
Father Time was wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of a tour de force there. And it's a cool title. Once you hear the lyrics and read the lyrics and see what it's about, the Father Time is a really, really neat title to go with that. And because I mean, it's just kind of talking about the time he spent with his father and how, you know, the good and bad of that and how all that went. And I mean, it's very, very, very emotional song, real effective delivery, just great song.
I couldn't agree more. It
Yeah.
starts off with that cool kind of a cello groove, and which is nice. And there's like there's some percussion. It almost sounds like light tap dancing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he starts talking about the daddy issues and
Yep.
a toxic dad and how dads can like lead kids the wrong way or make kids become hardened to things they shouldn't have to be.
Yep.
And I love how he kind of comes to the conclusion at the end and he says, I salute you. May your blessings be neutral to your toddlers. Don't create these little, macho boys that don't show pain, that don't, all that kind of stuff that a lot of dads do to their kids. And I thought that was a neat ending to that one.
Yeah, that's yeah. I got a lot of that out of just talking about exactly what you said. The what he went through and how his father treated him and, expected him to behave and react to things like he doesn't want to push that onto his kids and all that. It's pretty cool.
Toxic masculinity, I think that's what they call that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, Paul, did you like that one?
I did. I really liked the beat in the background. It definitely had kind of a classic vibe, you know what I mean? And just really good drum work in there and the audio bed underneath. I'm not sure if it's like chops and samples or if it was actually somebody performing it and then they looped it and that kind of thing, but it just really is a good audio bed.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard for me to figure out how to talk about something because I don't know how they made it. I don't know if it's a real instrument or if it's computer. Yeah. It's kind of tricky.
I get that too. Like if I'm trying to talk about the music, I don't know the same. I may not know exactly what instrument that is or keyboard or sample or this or that or the term I'm trying to when they go from this note to this note, like I don't know what the word for that is, but I can still like it.
And what's interesting too, not to go back to United in Grief, but there's an artist from the UK that I'm a big fan of named Roots Manuva. And there's a lot of kind of abstract beats going on with his work too, and I really like his flow and the music in the background, and I kind of hear some of those elements as well. And I don't think that it's necessarily a direct influence. It's just that the production team, I don't know if Kendrick did it himself, I don't know if he had a group of people, but they are just getting really creative on how to put these parts together. And as an owner of a sampler now, that is kind of pad based and you can create those chops and make things kind of jump and somewhat be disjunct but create a nice rhythmic motion. I really like the way it makes the impossible possible, basically, and that's what a lot of the audio is like on this too.
There's a lot of jazz elements.
Yeah,
I felt like in there, like we were sitting into a jazz jam. People show up at the club and start playing, and it just felt like we were sort of sitting in that environment. In some of these songs, the one that followed Father Time, the interlude.
Oh yeah, I love
that. Had that killer piano that was all choppy, but it kept getting faster and faster. And Kodak Black is just going over the top of it, which for an interlude, I thought that was so important. Talking about growing up poor, everybody's in jail, and then coming to that ending where now we own property. Like we're making it now. I thought that was a cool interlude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very
Paul,
chromatic.
You mentioned oh, sorry.
No, that's it. I was just saying it was very chromatic and just got faster and faster, and it was just a lot of fun. Go ahead.
You mentioned the production stuff, and it's funny because in a lot of hip hop and pop music right now, like you never know, it could go either way. It could be one guy sitting there with all the synths and the pads and this and that, or it could be like 10 guys working on one song.
Yeah.
It seems like it's either one or two ways.
Right. And I always like the guy that just kind of puts himself in the corner of the basement and just whittles away all day, kind of like Jay Dilla, right? and no matter what happens, there's a masterpiece.
Any other songs really jump out at you guys?
Steve, I know you mentioned Auntie Diaries. That
Mhm.
was a pretty powerful one. Yeah, I mean that very topical. And if this is really his story, like from his family, I mean it's pretty impressive that he could draw from that and actually be willing to put a song like this out, with what it says. So it was pretty powerful.
Even if it's not true, the idea that you
It's
own up to
yeah,
this and put it out there is very powerful.
yeah,
And I think too, one of the things where he talks about, using the F word over and over, and nobody thought anything of it when they were
yeah.
younger,
We
and
we don't mean the curse. We mean
exactly.
calling people a
Yes.
gay slur.
Yeah, exactly. And when we grew up, people played Smear the Queer.
Oh yeah,
Did
yeah.
anybody, when they were playing football, ever even associate that with, somebody being gay? It was
Not
the name
really,
of the
no.
no, and
It
so now
didn't.
you
It
look
didn't.
back and
Yeah,
go
with
ahead.
that game didn't really mean that to me. Like it just meant. I mean, obviously the rules is
Mhm.
whoever had the ball, but it just meant like that's the weak person. You got to get them.
Right.
So like maybe that is where the connotation came in. But and also, I mean, when we were kids, like we would call stuff gay all the time.
Yeah,
And it just
exactly.
meant like it was stupid or lame or whatever. And like, you never thought twice about it. And that's exactly what he says in this song. Like you throw that, F word around all the time, calling people that or whatever. And you never even thought about it. And yeah, how
And now you
hurtful.
realize the harm you could have been doing
Yes.
to
Yeah,
somebody at that
absolutely.
time, and we didn't
Yes.
even know any better or think about it. And so now,
Mhm.
like we've dealt with it and no longer do anything like that. And so he's done the same thing.
Yeah.
And so he says, basically, I've chose humanity. I
Yeah.
love who he
Mhm.
is. And then I love the ending. Do you remember the girl in 2018 who jumped up on stage and used the N-word, the white girl?
I don't remember that. I heard that in the song, but I don't remember that incident.
Yeah. So he uses that to kind of counter
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
to her jumping up and saying that, well, we have to own what we used to say if we can hold it against her for what she says, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was a cool connection at the end of that song. And
Mhm.
it was just a great song. You're right, Jeremy. It was
And
powerful that he'd own up to that.
I don't think we've even touched on really what he's talking about in here because I mean it's called the Auntie Diaries, and he's talking about his aunt becoming his uncle, basically,
Mhm.
and then like I think he said a cousin or something went
Mhm.
the other way. So and it's like I mean he talks about his family, how they treated these people, and how probably wasn't the best way they could have been treated, and he talks about them throwing those words around. And my favorite thing was the one where he was talking about his auntie becoming the man. I don't remember the names if he used names, but
Somebody became Marianne.
No, not that one. I'm talking about
Oh.
the auntie becoming a man, like starting to act and dress like a man, and all of his uncles were always mad at him because he got more girls than them, and all.
But it was cool because he was doing what they would want to do. So it was okay
they were,
in that
yeah,
instance.
they were like jealous and all
Yeah.
that. It was like, that's funny. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a great song.
It really was. It really is. Yeah.
There's another track that that I really liked as well, and some of the guests I was definitely a fan of before the album, but Purple Hearts with Ghostface Killah, I really love that groove on that one as well. It's got a couple of stabs that come in, and the groove kind of goes steady for a bit and brings it back in, and great bass line, just good flow altogether. That one's definitely a fun one.
It was kind of an unconventional drum beat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw Ghostface once.
You did?
I did. It was, I think that was on the side stage of Linkin Park's Project Revolution tour.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, when I saw him, he was with Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang,
when they were touring with Rage Against the Machine. And very nervous at that show because I brought an employee with me that when I worked at the corporate record store, Sam Goody. He was a minor. His mom's like, he wants to go. Will you take him? Yeah, sure. I love this music. And Wu-Tang told everybody to rush from the lawn into the pavilion, and it got really tight really quick.
Yeah.
But man, that was a good show.
Yeah. The Lady Summer Walker on that song, beautiful voice. I had never heard her before, but yeah, definitely a good find. And I love the her verse 2 was just phenomenal, and then the line, it ain't love if you judge me for my past, which is so cool.
Yep.
So I think a lot of this album kind of talks about growing up, so that totally makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, good jam.
And that ends the disc 1, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
It does.
It does. Yep.
Yep.
So if we go to disc 2, what stood out, Paul?
Mother. Definitely Mother Sober, especially just the feel of it. I'm a big fan of Beth Gibbons, love Portishead.
Absolutely.
And I, when I saw her name, I'm like, how's this going to play out? And when I heard her voice, I was like, holy cow, it actually gave me goosebumps. I was very engaged in this tune.
Yeah. I like her on this song. I feel like she was not given that much to do. It definitely works. Like, it sounds like her. And, she has like this whisper kind of thing that she does, which she's doing here, and which is really effective. I wish they would have used her a little more, but I really enjoyed this song, and it's cool to see her pop up on something like this.
Yeah, for sure.
There were 2 lines that I think just bring this whole thing together. And, a lot of people avoid grief by substances or whatever. And she says, you ain't felt grief until you felt it sober, or you haven't felt guilt until you felt it sober, which I thought those lines were so cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Very heavy.
Yeah, I mean, that story too about being abused, and they didn't believe him that he wasn't abused.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, just,
and that was what he was basically saying. Like, his mom was, so she was kind of pushing that on him. He was like, "No, that didn't happen."
That's her lens, right? I mean, that's how she sees the world, is how she was treated.
Yeah,
sad.
Yep.
I don't really want to talk about this song because it wasn't one of my favorites, but I do have to mention it quickly. But Crown, just being an English major and having him use a line from Henry IV, Shakespeare.
Okay.
Heavy is he changed it slightly. Heavy is the head that chose to wear the crown. And there it's just heavy is the head that wears the crown from Shakespeare. But but he chose to wear it, and he's telling us, look, he can't please everyone. Which
was this the same song? There was one song I was listening to, and like right at the beginning, I was like, did he just say Eckhart Tolle?
That's the guy, yeah, that he uses him in a number of songs as a German philosopher.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
And those are cool things too that they threw that in there. Weird, but what about Count Me Out? Did you guys like that one?
Yeah, I didn't really have anything on that one, so it kind of kicks off the disc 2.
Yeah.
So,
for me, really... that one didn't stand out as much. It had a cool lyrical flow, very fast-paced delivery, which I think if you count this as like an album opener, I think it was since it's actually disc 2, it makes sense. And then this one was just talking about when you're at your low, where are your people? Are they there for you? And a lot of people are not. So that's what I got out of that one.
My other ones that I kind of, marked as my favorites or my standouts, there was definitely Savior and Mr. Morale.
Yeah,
I like both of those a lot.
You put Interlude and Savior together?
No, I mean, there's an argument to be made for that, but I just Savior is the one that I noted.
Okay, what did you love about Savior?
Well, I actually didn't write any notes. I was just like, oh, I really like this one. So I think that was maybe one of the ones where I was just like really kind of feeling the groove, and I was like, oh, I like this one a lot. Like, it was just kind of I was feeling it. So
Nice, good low bass drum, bass line kind of thing with it.
yeah.
I put the two together in my mind.
Okay.
And I don't know that they really fit together, honestly, when I started looking at my notes. But so Baby Keem, I had no idea. But Interlude, he's actually speaking over violin, which first of all caught my ear because that's just super cool. And he's rapping and flowing, and it sounds fantastic. And he's talking about growing up in a home with drugs, going on jail visits. And then I think that the irony here is that when he becomes successful, he has to go home and buy a casket for somebody who dies, who was in that former world that he got out of.
Right.
So kind of like that whole thing where you can't outrun your problems. So I thought that was cool. Savior had so many cool digging lines. It was almost like it was in parts.
That was okay. So that was the one where he's like he keeps mentioning. He mentions like this person, like he's not your savior. This person, they're not your savior.
J. Cole and
Tupac and like now is that the one that says something about now Tupac's dead and you got to figure it out on your own or something like that?
And because we put our celebrities are so prevalent in our society, we put all of our energy into these people. Well, they're just people, they're not saviors, and he reminds us of that. And he says basically that they can't be your savior, they will let you down. But then he oddly enough goes into COVID. And he rips on people in COVID, which was very poignant and true if you were on social media during this time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but here's where I feel like he's honest again in this whole album is he says, the cat's out of the bag. I am not your savior. I find it just as difficult to love thy neighbors, which was interesting too, because at church this weekend, the whole thing was Jesus says, love your neighbors. I mean, that's your number one tenet as a Christian is to love everyone, even your enemy. And he says here, I struggle with that. I'm not your savior. I can't do it either.
Didn't he also mention that in a previous song? He was talking about, was it in, or maybe not a previous song? I feel like it was around the story of the Auntie Diaries, but maybe I'm wrong.
Did he mention it again in Mr. Morale?
Maybe somewhere.
Or was it in Mirror?
I think I don't remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure that comes up again.
He says, "Sorry, I didn't save the world, my friend." In Mirror, the last song. I don't know.
No, it's the "Love Thy Neighbor" thing. I thought.
Straight up for that. Okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it does matter, Mundy. It's all important.
I didn't write it down, so it must not have mattered too much.
And so he ends. What I love about this is he says, independent thought is like an eternal enemy. Like we're all afraid of having independent thought. We have to know, everybody else has to tell us how to feel about things.
Yeah.
Tell
us what to like, who to love.
Exactly.
Right. All that stuff. We had a good, talking about some of these songs at brunch with the boys, they're 18 and 20 and
wow.
I know, right?
It's crazy.
This gray, this is real. All this gray is real.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were talking about family and being close to certain people when you're young and then growing apart from those people. And as you grow, you find friends and you kind of have your chosen family and, you kind of most of the time you prefer to spend time with those people rather than your family.
Yep.
So, I mean, we were just talking about all of that. It was pretty cool. We had a good discussion about that.
Awesome.
For sure.
And I did mention Mirror a second ago, and that's the final track where he talks about being selfish again, little retrospection here. And that's where that line, sorry, I didn't save the world, my friend. I was too busy building mine again. Like he was taking hold of his own. And he says, I choose me. I'm sorry. But the album, I don't know musically if you could tell, but it's more triumphant. It kind of ends on a high note.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like he's
that's
actually
one.
come out the other end or something.
Yeah, doesn't that one like it really like starts to build and build
Mm-hmm.
and build towards the end? And yeah, that's cool. I feel like he did that a couple of times in this album, and he didn't wear it out. But I did notice he did it a couple times, but it worked. Like he didn't overuse it. But yeah, it's cool little tool. I think Mirror was probably the most effective using that.
Mm-hmm. And I really dug Mr. Morale, the kind of arpeggiating line, kind of Stranger Things like, and the groove with that as well. That was a really fun, just beat, if you will.
Yeah, I like that song a lot. I liked how I was asking questions about past trauma, like how it affects you.
Yeah.
Because it fits right in with these themes here. So, and I think we got through almost every song, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we hit what we needed to hit for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
We missed N95 is one probably that was a big one. And I felt like
okay. I saw that title and I was prepared for him to go deep on COVID stuff.
Yep.
But he didn't really. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure where the title comes from.
Unless I kind of got it as it was protecting, how the N95 protects against COVID. In this case, it was almost like protecting him because he's calling out fake people. He's talking about people who put on a front. He's getting attacked from all sides, including the relatives, the bank, government. And he really took a deep dive into fame. So maybe it was about kind of protection. Against those
I can see that.
I could be totally wrong,
Yep.
but I did like that song. I thought that was a pretty cool song. All right. Well, gentlemen, I think it's time for Roundtable. Let's rate this thing. JPP, what do you give it out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 4. It's something that was foreign territory for me. And I'm glad you said, hey, let's review this, because I have become enlightened to some new things. And I definitely look forward to listening more and dissecting, unpacking, all that stuff. It warrants many listens, and I plan to do so.
Yep. Very good. What was your score?
A 4.
Straight up 4? Okay.
4, yep.
Monday?
Right now, it's probably sitting at 3.5, and that is only... I would have to justify that and say it is not based on the skills and the musicality that are on display here. I like I said before, I think this double album is an accomplishment. It's impressive. But just because of how deep I have not been able to get into it yet, I'm sitting at a 3.5. I imagine if I listen to this more, that would probably increase.
Fair enough.
Let
me add one thing.
Sure.
It's challenging to listen to this album in my day-to-day life, especially with a 10-year-old. But I was able to pull it off.
I will say, put the headphones on, put the noise cancellation on, and listen. Mm-hmm. There is so much going on musically.
Yeah.
That just, it blew me away. I did not expect to like it that much. I gave it a 4.5 for right now. And the reason is I feel like it really challenges me to listen to, it's poetry pretty much. Yeah. And it's not always telling you exactly how to feel. It puts some enigmatic lyrics out there, and you kind of have to dig through them all to figure out exactly what's going on. And it does it over this beautiful field of music that constantly changes. There's that one groove that we just can't quite describe exactly how it goes, but it's just you can feel it in your soul. It's deep, and then we got these high jazzy piano bits and samples going on. So I just think that this is a fantastic endeavor. It challenges the listener. It's not something that you passively just want to have a good time. You don't want to do a driving song with this one, and where you're just kind of driving and chilling. It requires effort to really enjoy this music. And if you got the time to dig in, do it.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. I speaking to the challenge. If anyone hears that and thinks, "Oh, it's a challenging listen," it's not in a bad way.
Mm-mm.
It absolutely will challenge you in, I think, more ways than one. And if you are open to it and you let it in and you feel, I mean, all the layers and levels of the music and the depth and the, you know, bearing your soul of the lyrics. I mean, it's really, really good. It's really good. I also did not expect to like it this much. So, but I did. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
So the fuddy-duddies got out of their lawn and tried something new. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
That's true.
There are things that challenge me in a way that I don't enjoy. This was not that.
Yeah,
This was-
exactly.
this
So
was-
we're always
I
up
was-
to the challenge.
I was glad to be along for this ride.
Yeah.
Very good. And so next week, what are we doing, boys?
Well, here's the question. Since
Nothing
this is-
country. I can't be challenged in that way.
well, no.
I do have my limits.
Yeah. I
Oh,
do too.
speaking of challenging in a bad way, oh my gosh, Lacey's been watching the Eurovision competition. Holy crap. Oh, rough stuff. Anyway, go ahead, Paul.
No, I was going to say, since this is kind of uncharted territory for us, if there's anybody listening, things along this vein, if you have suggestions for us to listen to, it could be even an older release for that matter, please enlighten us. We would definitely encourage the opportunity to check out similar music in this genre that we are just not familiar with. And
I actually have one.
you do.
I do.
Go for it.
I would recommend checking out Denzel Curry.
Okay.
Very good stuff. He
Yeah,
actually, the first thing I heard from him that I absolutely loved was he does a cover of a Rage Against the Machine song. I want to say it was Killing in the Name, but I'm second guessing myself. But find that on YouTube, check that out, and then go back and listen to his stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Cool.
Yeah. And we're not against this variety of music by any means. I mean, I think all of us, back in the day, we loved PE and Tupac and, Big Daddy
Run DMC.
Kane and all at KRS-One. All of
Oh,
that
yeah.
was fantastic. It's just, I think as we got older, it sort of shifted its focus
Yes.
and it became about something else. And that kind of left me behind. So if we can
Yep.
get more like this, I'm totally in. And please, if you say Kanye, we won't let you listen to the show anymore. We
I
do have
definitely,
limits.
I certainly gravitate more towards, I mean, I love Dre, Snoop, Cube, all that stuff, but I certainly gravitate more towards hip hop and rap that has some kind of socially relevant message.
Absolutely.
Jurassic 5 comes to
Mhm.
mind.
Yes.
They are absolutely amazing. Such a great group, and they tackle all kinds of issues. It's hard for me to consider them. I don't know. They're not like pure hip hop. It's kind of hip hop with a live band that's a little different. But Flowbots, they have
Yeah.
a lot of really cool
Mhm.
social messages, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
What Chuck D said back in the day was that hip hop, that rap music was the black CNN.
Yep.
And what came afterwards turned into Cartoon Network. And so, and we can't, Carlton Ridenour, we cannot argue with him. We just cannot.
Yeah. There's another artist. He's more of a, I wouldn't say a DJ, but definitely a beat mangler. Prefuse 73. He was on the Warp label. A lot of his stuff is more instrumental, but the samples that he puts in place with the dialogue kind of help paint the picture as well. But kind of along the lines of the abstract beats I was talking about on this release, there's some similarities as well, and it's very fun to listen to because the chops kind of go in crazy directions and fits really well in a weird way. It's like you could kind of see the train cars with the graffiti. It gives you visuals as you're listening to it.
Yeah.
cool.
All right. Guys, that was fun. I loved
Yeah.
last few days digging into this. And I don't think I'm done. So I want to keep listening.
I was just worried I wouldn't have much to say, but we got there. So
Yeah.
So that brings us, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. Do we want to hold off Sandman 5, do 5 and 6 next time?
That's fine by me. That gives me a chance to catch up. I removed 2 hedges over the weekend, and I'm trying to uproot the bases now. And that
Always
was
fun.
a big part of my weekend, and just didn't have time to read.
Well, let's do that next week because I guarantee we will not talk as much about the next record because there can't be that many records that come out that are that in depth. Yeah. So, all right. So we'll plan Sandman 5 and 6 next week. Gentlemen, before we get off of here, if somebody wants to find out what JPP thinks, where could we find you, my friend?
You can find me at justplainpaul.com. Sign up for the mailing list for news and updates. You can also find me at the properly spelled Phoenix Supernova on Instagram. I'm also on Instagram at justplainpaul as well, but a lot of the music focus is going to be Phoenix Supernova related. It's going to get weird.
Awesome.
Are you working on lots of new stuff?
When I can. Right now, I'm just kind of balancing the thanks balancing the rural life and doing the yard projects while the season allows.
Oh yeah,
that gives me a chance to kind of when I do sit down, I'm refreshed and ready versus going through the motions and same old habits, if you will. Taking a break can really open up the mind.
Awesome. Cool. Mundy, where can we find you?
Just find me on Instagram at Metalhead Mundy. I have not been very active on there. I'm hoping to get back into I was doing a lot of posts of the hashtag Today I Read and posting like short little reviews of comics that I was reading and stuff, hoping to get back into that a little more. As Steve and I are rolling through our read 1,000 comics in a year challenge, which I'm kind of kicking ass on.
Nice.
So
I'm about to take over.
Yeah.
Hey, I know where I can find you tomorrow night, Mundy. With me.
Tomorrow night. With you.
At Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I told Lacey earlier, I'm like, I keep forgetting that's tomorrow.
Yeah, so be here at the house by 5:30 and we'll head out.
Okay, we can do that probably.
And right. post pics and adventures on the Facebook page.
Oh, we will. We will.
Sean keeps telling me I need to take books to get signed, and I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. Because he will probably be fairly well guarded unless you're at the meet and greet that you have to pay for, which we did not. So.
Correct. All right. Well, I am properly spelled Foggy's Pal on Instagram and Twitter. And sometimes I can be found over at the actual Wanderings and Wool Gathering page, writing some articles about music and whatnot. And guess where you can find Wanderings and Wool Gathering, guys? Somebody spill it. Let's do it.
Stitcher.
Yep.
Castbox.
Apple.
Yep. Spotify.
Google SoundCloud.
Play. SoundCloud. Yeah. On our website, wanderingsandwoolgathering.com.
And there's one more.
Kokomo Lantern.
Yes.
Thank you, Kokomo
One more.
Lantern.
And YouTube.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we are right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can find those album, movie, TV, and comics reviews at wanderingsandwoolgathering.com. And so next week for episode 113, we'll be back with a super cool challenge and an amazing review. It'll be a surprise to you and us. Paul, play us out.
I didn't come up with a song.
Wait a minute. I have one, Paul. Quick. Hold on.
Go.
Ready?
Yep.
There we go. Right? Here we go.